And where I got this idea from was from the fantastic Kendrick Lamar, who has a couple of his albums about that exact thing, because he rose to fame, and how does he deal with moving into a new system where it's unfamiliar to him, and how does he cope with that while he knows plenty of people who are still stuck in poverty. We're here to talk about bread, lettuce, cheese, dead presidents, green.
It's just money, man. It's just money.
So my question is, and I'm sure there's a term for this, you can help me out.
A label.
Which is for a lower income person getting out of poverty, who has lived a lot of their life in poverty, feeling a type of guilt for moving on without people they know in their life. And so it kind of makes them feel guilty to like revert back into that system.
This person is still responsible because they maybe even could, but then there's this crazy, weird outside pressure and societal pressure that it's almost hard to leave what you know. It's uncomfortable.
And
that goes past like just personality and personal choice, that there's actually these outside influences or stereotypes that keep you there.
And where I got this idea from was from the fantastic Kendrick Lamar, who has a couple of his albums about that exact thing, because he rose to fame, and how does he deal with, moving into a new system where it's unfamiliar to him, and how does he cope with that while he knows plenty of people who are still stuck in poverty.
Anybody who rises to wealth, so winning the lottery, professional sports players actually are really known for this. This is how they become bankrupt so fast, or they have so much debt. But people will give away lots. They'll just make lots of poor choices. They'll buy that jet and 10 houses and then lose it all because they can't sustain it. That's actually all been very well, thoroughly documented. So one of the things I loved about my master's was it was actually a master's in family studies and human services with an emphasis in personal finance, which they've recently shortened to just a master's in personal finance, which I find offending because that's not the degree I got. What I was so fascinated by was the human and their relationship with money and concepts like that.
More on the societal responsibility than it is the personal.
Sure.
Because it's that effect they call it the tall poppy effect, where when the poppy grows high and you cut it off.
With the name.
Is that group, instead of celebrating the person who was successful, they pull them down by demand and expect, and the community kind of pulls them back down.
Sure. And I feel like part of that too is because nobody has helped you learn the knowledge to figure out how to deal with the new circumstance you're put in.
Yeah. And it's very much overnight. So if you ever win the lottery, give somebody else control. So there's people who will just, of course, manage it for a fee. Sure. They make good money, but they do a good job managing it. Supposed to give immediate control to that person. It's like a advice that's given to people who win the lottery. If you get it from financial, unsolicited, if somebody came to me and said, what should I do? I'd say absolutely give it to control to somebody else. Sure. Let them limit your control, but put stipulations to it, how much money you're allowed, in the first year, because this is the one time you can kind of make that good decision, and you need a minimum of a year to adjust.
You're absolutely right. It kind of ties into what we talked about wants and needs, because first thought is I need a new car,
Yep. Need and wants get real confusing.
Right.
You win the lottery.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. No, I think that was fantastic though. And I do want to go back to what you said was, what about the person who doesn't make it? I mean, so we kind of veered off into uber success, but your actual initial point was the person who didn't want to lose what they have. And we weren't talking about a person getting really wealthy. We were just talking about a person getting out of poverty. Yeah. Which is a very different conversation that many more people are capable of doing, right? That's a more of an everyday person versus
which does happen.
Kendrick Lamar.
It does happen quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
So, and how that works against them. And I know in financial advising, they found that people, like a bucket of crabs, the crabs don't want any other crab to escape, but every crab wants out. So as they cycle, what will happen is they crawl from the bottom and they fight their way to the top. And right about the time they get free, all the other crabs pull them all the way back down to the bottom. And so it's just constantly revolving.
That's
And so
interesting.
that's actually more aligned than the tall poppy, because the tall poppy is about somebody, shooting to success. And then, at least to my understanding.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more of a reasonable thing like what you've described.
A cycle.
So, and I don't know the answer to that. I think it's something people have to be aware of, and you don't want to lose what you have, and you want to fit in, and you want to be stay amongst your peers, but at the same time, you might want something more, and so most people actually would choose to stay.
So for the sake of dramatic effect, I'm going full societal.
Full societal. Okay, how about you, Jared? What's your answer?
In all fairness, if there's anything I've seen more of personally, it's people who are more responsible. I can give you some examples, and I can make a big deal, and we can talk about those few examples that society beat them down. But I actually have seen more people to blame, and then I see those people are usually the loudest to blame society, which sometimes really irks me, because I definitely believe there's like societal issues and socioeconomic status and what it does to you, and health is really tied to this. I'm a really big advocate that I wish more people could just be healthy, because like you said earlier, stress is a killer. It's a silent killer. I mean, it kills people, let alone ruins their lives. So in that sense, I'm a big advocate there. But yeah, if you ask me, like, what do you see more of? Like, what are you personally more? People are just constantly responsible. They love to play the victim, and they love to blame other people for their problems. And I wish less people did that, and it'd be much easier to deal with society and its problems.
So for me, I see both, right? That there is societal effects that definitely influence and create poverty mentalities and these cycles of poverty. But to me, especially as a psychologist, it's hard if you just focus on that, then you remove the agency and the hope out of people, because then they are only victims. So we can account for both the societal stuff and the personal responsibility. I like to focus on people's responsibility and how to change their own behavior and thoughts, because we can only change ourselves. If we tried to change others or change society, that's way harder and less effective than trying to change yourself.
And not to discount Kendrick Lamar, he also talks about taking responsibility as well. That's why he's worth listening to. But remember, it's just money.